It just has this very kind of direct aspect to it. You know, when we feel beauty very immediately, don't we? When we kind of witness it, and it just has this effect of kind of grounding us in the moment. And also, it's very sort of compelling, isn't it? So we see something beautiful, and it's like we just want to kind of move towards it. And so it has this sort of inherent kind of pleasure. It's kind of inherently pleasurable, and also it's very non-conceptual, isn't it? We don't have to think. You know, when we look at something in nature, or hear some beautiful music, for example, we don't need to think about it. It just has this very kind of non-conceptual. It's very direct and kind of non-conceptual. Yeah, and it takes us out of ourselves. So it kind of takes us out of our sort of normal, narrow thoughts and concerns. So it has this sort of transcendental aspect to it, and we can. So we can explore reality through beauty, and so I've got I've got another slide which hopefully will appear in a minute. Okay, which I think it's the one before that. Okay. All right. Just. That's the one. Thanks for that. So I just this is an extract from a Tsongkhapa poem called "The Human Body at Peace with Itself," and there's just something in here that to me kind of highlights how we can use beauty to explore other aspects of reality. And here it's kind of linking beauty and impermanence. So he says, the human form is one with difficulty. It is easy to lose. All worldly things are brief, like lightning in the sky. This life you must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. Okay, so I just wanted to share that because to me it's just kind of an example of how we can explore other aspects of reality through this idea of beauty. And I think hopefully I've got another slide coming up now, which is a and he says, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. Yeah. So, and I really like this quote, and I think I've shared this in one of the previous weeks or kind of alluded to it, but there's just something sort of intuitive in this about the kind of link between beauty and the truth. And the fact that in a way art or nature or whatever we find beauty in becomes beautiful because it captures something of reality. And Bhante talks about when a great work of art is produced, there is something of reality being kind of channeled through the artist. So it's like the artist becomes a like conduit for kind of beauty to kind of manifest through him. Yeah. Okay, so moving on specifically to the kind of awareness, beauty and awareness. We talked last week about Bante's point that awareness is not merely an understanding of the kind of characteristics of an object, but it also has this kind of appreciative aspect to it. And so Bante said, it's a sort of relishing it, a being in tune with it, being on the same wavelength as it, being in harmony with it even. You could say, not just knowing it. And we also talked about how Bante translates the word vidya, which is usually taken as knowledge in a kind of insight way. So knowledge as opposed to kind of ignorance. And he translates it as aesthetic appreciation. So there's this aspect of wisdom where we are seeing things in a kind of aesthetically appreciative way. So wisdom isn't a kind of cold kind of observation. It has this kind of aesthetic sort of, this kind of aesthetic aspect to it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of intimacy of awareness, because I think a part of this kind of aesthetic quality of awareness is that it has a kind of intimacy to it. I remember early in lockdown when this is going right back to kind of March or April, and things were very kind of still. And I just remember being in my garden and having this really deep sense that I could spend the whole of my life in the garden, because there was just so much sort of beauty in it. It was almost like it contained everything I could ever need. And of course, in some ways it does, although perhaps not at a kind of practical level. But I had this kind of feeling that I was really getting to know everything, all the kind of plants and flowers in my kind of garden, with this, just with this sort of sense of kind of aesthetic appreciation. And I want to say a little bit about metta, because of course metta comes from awareness too, and it involves a change in the way that we see others, and it involves a kind of a falling away of this sense of what others can do for us, the kind of falling away of the kind of utilitarian aspect. And this, of course, is where beauty arises. You know, we strip the mind of utility, and seeing through the eyes of metta, we just start to see things as they are, and we see others as they are, and we kind of stop seeing them as an end in themselves. And this, of course, is an aspect of this kind of aesthetic appreciation. And this is, I've got a couple of quotes actually, but this is one of my sort of favorite quotes of Bante's. He says, "Love is the awareness of the being of another person." So I'll say that again actually. He says, "Love is the awareness of the being of another person." Yeah, so, and again, this just kind of pulls together this kind of link between awareness and the kind of beautiful and the aesthetic. And this is a quote I wanted to share. This is a quote from Shelley, the poet, and he says, The great secret of morals is love, or going out of our own nature, and an identification of ourselves with the beautiful which exists in thought, action, or person, not our own. Yeah, so it's this kind of imaginative identification with the beautiful which exists in another being. And I think both of these sort of quotes just pull out this kind of aspect about how awareness just fundamentally kind of changes our experience, and it creates a kind of intimacy, and it just moves us towards the kind of rest of life. Yeah. So there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about now. The first one I wanted to talk about was the kind of indefinable quality of beauty that that awareness has, and I was going to share a poem. It's a poem by Alice Oswald, and part of Maitreya Bandhu's kind of analysis of it, which is taken from his book, The Journey and the Guide. So hopefully this poem will pop up on the slide. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read through this poem. It's called Snowdrop. A pale and pining girl, head bowed, heart gnawed, whose figure nods and shivers in a shawl of fine white wool, has suddenly appeared in the damp woods, as mild and mute as snowfall. She may not last, she has no strength at all, but stoops and shakes as if she stood all night on one bare foot, confiding with the moonlight. One morning, among several hundred clear-eyed ghosts who get up in the cold and blink and turn in those trembling emblems of night frosts, she brings her burnt heart with her in an urn of ashes, which she opens to remourn, having no other outlet to express her wild flower sense of wounded gentleness. Yes, she's no more now than a drop of snow on a green stem. Her name is now her calling. Her mind is just a frozen melting of glow of water, swollen to the point of falling, which maybe has no meaning. There's no telling, but what a beauty, what a mighty power of patience, kept intact, is now in flower. So Maitreya Bandhu talks about how Alice Oswald finds an image in nature for something in her, a sense of her kind of inner frailty and a kind of sense of wounding. But he also describes how the snowdrop deepens something in the poet as well, which in a sense kind of reaches out to the flower. So it's a bit like, subject and object, poet and flower have kind of grown closer together, and the kind of boundaries between them have started to dissolve. He says, something in the flower has resonated with the inner life of the poet, which in turn has deepened and enriched her engagement with the flower. Both are enhanced. And there's just something here about the kind of intimacy between writer and nature. And there's a couple of phrases in that poem which I just think are really wonderful. That idea of the flower confiding with the moonlight, and also the wild flower's sense of wounded gentleness. So there's just something about this sort of awareness and kind of attention, and this deep resonance with nature that just sort of opens us up into the kind of realm of the beautiful. And this quality is quite intangible, it seems to me, in a way. It's like something. It's like something is just kind of hinted at, that is just slightly beyond our grasp, just sort of beyond the conscious mind. Yeah. So Bhante talks about beauty taking us out of ourselves, but also beyond the object of beauty. And I think we can really see this in this poem, can't we? It's like the snowdrop is kind of imbued with this great significance, and it's almost like just by kind of attending to the snowdrop, it's almost like we can see the whole world in it somehow. Yeah. So that was one aspect I wanted to bring out, and the other thing I wanted to talk specifically about this morning. Well, I've called this bit of the talk "The Removing of the Veil," which hopefully will become apparent. Yeah. So the Buddha saw that we are just kind of caught up in this constant cycle of craving and aversion, kind of endlessly, pushing away what we don't like, and kind of grasping what we do like, and that this is difficult. And when we are unaware, we just do this habitually, and we know, don't we, that it's painful. It's like we're constantly out of line, kind of out of sync with reality. And this, well, it's just inherently unsatisfactory. We're kind of constantly kind of bumping up against how things are, and we can see this in our life, I think, or at least I can. It's like it's this aspect, isn't it, that life is never quite just as we want it, and we kind of want to fix the flow of life. But of course, we also have this great ability to kind of turn the mind. We can kind of turn the mind back on itself, so we can become aware of our own awareness. And in a way, this is the sort of key to liberation, I think. And from this kind of awareness, qualities such as sort of kindness and mindfulness comes, and at the end of it, of course, wisdom and compassion kind of arise in their fullest sense. So I'm just going to say a little bit more about this. Hopefully, I think a slide should pop up in a minute. Well, okay. It's got a quote on it. This is a quote. Thank you. Yeah, this is a quote from a T.S. Eliot poem. He says, "Go, go, go," said the bird, humankind cannot bear very much reality. Time past and time future, what might have been and what has been, point to one end, which is always present. I just like this. I just find it interesting, this idea that humankind cannot bear very much reality, and I wonder why this is. And in some ways, I think we take a lot of comfort in doing the same sort of doing the same old things in a way, and we get a kind of perverse pleasure in doing that, even though sometimes these kind of habits are quite painful. And also we get stuck in our in our small egoic mind, and it's almost like we're kind of addicted. We're kind of addicted to it. We're addicted to our kind of sense of self. But of course, we can also experience like big mind, can't we? The kind of vast, open mind that we might occasionally experience in meditation. So of course, with awareness, we can learn to kind of reduce this dependency and this kind of addiction to our kind of ego, and just have these kind of flashes of spaciousness. And I think with sort of confidence, when we have confidence in this, our perception of life changes. We can start to hold things more lightly. And we talked last week about how the Bodhisattva, how the Bodhisattvas have this quality of being able to treat everything as kind of play, even the very sort of serious business of saving all beings. And of course, we can train the mind by choosing what we dwell on, what we let the mind dwell on. And so this sort of getting kind of caught in the kind of egoic mind is a bit like being behind a veil, and we can remove this kind of veil of illusion, and it just it reveals the kind of beauty of life just as it is. Or to put it another way, I guess we could say, in our sort of habitually unaware state, we don't see the world as it is, and this is really painful. And when we align ourselves, or when we start to align ourselves with the truth, then in a way, everything is perfect. It's like things are just kind of fine. And I think this comes from when we align ourselves with how things are, there's just this sense of kind of interconnectedness, and this sense of kind of connection with the rest of life, and this kind of spontaneous love and kindness and care and compassion. And I think to see this aspect, to connect with the kind of beauty that is inherent in the kind of life, in our life and in the world. In a way, it just takes a little shift in our awareness. A little shift in our awareness, I think, makes a big difference to how we view the world around us. And I was going to say something about, in a way, the fact that we spend a lot of time behind this kind of veil of illusion is quite painful, I think. And in a way, there's a sort of tragedy behind the kind of lack of awareness um, that we can have a lot of the time. Um, yeah, but on the other hand, of course, what a gift the Dharma is, helping us to kind of remove that veil. So I'm just going to say, I've just got a couple more things I'll say very quickly. So beauty in a way, or the beauty we see in the world is in a way is a kind of function of our connection with each other and with life. And I think there's this kind of common theme around beauty, that it emerges when greed and attachment start to subside. So it's almost like to let the beauty of the world emerge, we need to just kind of start to let go of our attachment and kind of grasping at life. So when we see through the kind of veil of ignorance, we're kind of in the world of craving and aversion. And when we see with wisdom, we see through that with that kind of sense of aesthetic appreciation, and we just see things as they are. We just start to appreciate things for both their sameness and their uniqueness, and we move from a kind of mode of wanting to appropriate everything for our own kind of needs to a mode of kind of appreciation. So I think that's all I've got to say, actually.